And today with us we have Jeanette Walls, who is the author of The Glass Castle. So Jeanette, you wrote The Glass Castle and it's about your childhood.
Yeah, it's about my childhood from when I was 3 years old to when I was married and had a stepdaughter.
Many readers that have reviewed this book say that you were raised unfairly and poorly. Do you agree with what they're saying?
Actually, as unfair as my childhood seems, I don't believe that I was raised poorly. I think for the longest time I agreed with all of my parents' morals and standards and all of their ideas until I was a little bit older. But I don't believe that I was raised poorly.
And I know you moved around quite a lot. Exactly how many places in this country did you live?
I would say about 7. We lived in Welch, West Virginia. We lived in southern Arizona. We lived in Phoenix, Arizona. We lived in Las Vegas and Battle Mountain, Nevada. And also New York City.
Did you get along with your parents at all? I mean, especially your dad?
I guess I did when I was little. I guess a couple of years after freshman year is when we started arguing more and not getting along as well. But we had a pretty good relationship. I'd have to say we were the closest out of everyone else in our family. And I really loved my dad and I trusted him. Some people in our family didn't.
Did your parents get along well?
Not really. I mean, they argued all the time, and my mom always complained about my dad, and my dad always complained about my mom. Like, my mom painted too much, my dad leaves the children alone too much, my dad should get a job, stuff like that. My mom always complained about how she was forced to marry my dad against her will because he threatened that if she didn't, he would just take her along with him.
What happened when you moved to New York City?
Well, when we moved to New York City, it was when I was going to be a senior. It was actually, we all moved at a different time because we were so tired of living in Welch that we just wanted to leave, and we'd heard so many wonderful tales about New York City and how happy life was for everyone there, and we really wanted to go there. And so we raised funds for about a year. We called it our escape fund. And so about a year after we collected funds, my dad actually stole all of the money. And we really don't know what he spent it on, but we were really mad and we all had to get jobs to raise more money. And when we finally did, we sent Lori off after junior year to New York City to kind of adjust so she could help us adjust when we got there. I also left after junior year and moved to New York City, and Brian went after sophomore year, and we all kind of just lived there. We had no problems with our reputation because no one knew us as, oh, those are the kids of Rex Walls or something like that.
Then what did your parents do?
Well, after we'd been in New York City for quite some time, my parents and my other sister Maureen decided to move to New York City too. So we were all kind of upset, sadly. And Brian and I didn't let them stay in our places, so Lori let them stay in her place until they started destroying all of her property and stuff like that. She kicked him out and they started living on the streets. Maureen moved back to California. And I guess my dad got really sick and he got tuberculosis, and he was in the hospital for quite some time, and after a while he hadn't only fought off tuberculosis, but he'd stayed sober for a long time. He got a job, and he tried to convince my mom to go with him so they could have a better life, but she really didn't want to. And so eventually my dad was back on the streets. So after my parents had been back on the streets for some time. My dad got a heart attack and he was in the hospital, and I remember the doctors saying, "It's only the machines keeping him alive now," and then an hour after they said that, they turned off the machines.
I'm so sorry to hear that. How did each kid react to what had happened?
I guess everyone was mostly okay except for me, because I was always the closest to my dad, more than anyone else in my whole family. And I guess I was really upset. After he died, I stayed home, I quit all my jobs, I just didn't feel like doing anything.
I heard after that you guys didn't talk to each other for 5 years. When did you start talking to each other again?
Well, after Dad died, Maureen was back in California and Brian had gotten married. He joined the police force. Lori and Mom became prospering artists. I got married to a man named Eric. Of course, it didn't work out too well, so we broke up, and I guess 5 years later, Brian had a daughter named Veronica. I got remarried to a man named John and had a wonderful, beautiful stepdaughter named Jessica, and I guess we were all just really happy. So about a couple months before I wrote the book, my husband John decided that we should invite my whole family over for Thanksgiving, and that's actually when we started talking again, and that's how I ended the book.
So what message are you trying to get across with this book?
I guess I was trying to tell whoever read this that if their life is like this and their childhood is hard and they're struggling, that they're not alone, that there's plenty of people that are just like them. Life isn't always fair. It's not always what you want.
I also forgot to ask, why is it titled The Glass Castle?
Oh, well, it's because when I was growing up, my dad had these plans to build a glass castle. And a glass castle is any little girl's dream. He had mapped out plans, he had even built a foundation, but I guess it just never carried it out. And I really wanted this to be the title because it represented a lot of factors of the story, such as that I had this hope in this dream, and I guess that I was upset that it didn't happen because life isn't always fair, as I said before. And also, it's to show that even though my father and I didn't get along all the time and we had some hard feelings, it showed that he really did love us and he was trying to give us whatever he could, even if he was aiming for too much that he couldn't handle.